Good afternoon and welcome to the Chief Cheat Sheet. I'm Darren Smith along with Steve Walsh. We are live from Benton's inside of the Westin Crown Center, your place to stay. And Steve, we've been off for a couple of weeks, but you know what today is, right?
It's game day.
It is game day. It is divisional weekend. Of course, the first game of today's doubleheader will feature our Kansas City Chiefs hosting the Cleveland Browns, who were victorious in their wild card debut after 17 years last week over the Pittsburgh Steelers. So they come into Arrowhead today. Kickoff is at 2:05. Of course, the game will be seen on CBS. And just your initial thoughts on today's action with the team being off last week with their bye.
Yeah, I'm excited. I know you're excited. I know Chiefs fans are excited. Everyone's excited to see this team go back and try to run it back as the mantra for this season. But you know what? It's real now. You know, the team is the divisional round. They got their bye. We've been asking the guys all year, like, how are you staying patient, not looking, beyond the regular season onto the playoffs and then onto the Super Bowl.
Yeah, and one of the things, look, this is why they decided to, as we look over Union Station where it says running back. This is what it's all about. This is for them. So, we talked throughout the year, whether or not they were getting complacent, whether or not they were just getting tired of how the season was progressing. Now, after, for Patrick and some of those players, 21 days off, the rest of the team, 14 days off, got a chance to rejuvenate those batteries. Players do a little trash talking via social media. Odell Beckham, who's not even going to play in today's game, thinks that this team could win, and he should feel that way. Obviously, Sammy Watkins made some comments this past week on Twitter as well. He's not playing in the game today, which is kind of ironic. But look, this is where it's all. This is where it all comes down to. At the end of the day, 2:05, you got to kick the ball off. We saw what Cleveland was able to do last week against Pittsburgh. A lot of people weren't sold on Pittsburgh even when they were 11-0. The fact that they were able to pretty much manhandle Pittsburgh the way that they did look impressive in their win. They jumped up to a 28-0 lead, and they never relinquished their lead. What's to say about Cleveland coming into today's game?
Well, they're coming in with a lot of confidence. All year they have said, "Hey, we feel disrespected. No one thinks that we're going to win. Oh, the Browns are going to be the Browns." Of course, we heard Kareem Hunt's comments post game last week after they defeated the Pittsburgh Steelers. The Browns are going to be the Browns because that's what everyone had been saying. Juju Smith-Schuster had said the same thing via his social media. They did the whole TikTok dance. Not only that, but then he gave a little bit of what I call bulletin board material, saying that he's this week's personal. So I just feel like they're coming in with the ultimate confidence that you want your team to have in the playoffs. But think about it is, even though you're coming in with that confidence, you're still facing on the other side of the ball that dude, Patrick Mahomes.
Well, here's what's interesting. This is actually the first playoff meeting post-season meeting between both teams. I know we think, all the years they've been playing. Well, that was Marty Schottenheimer, happened to be the coach of Cleveland at the time before he came over to Kansas City. But looking at this, Cleveland comes into today's game. Their record is 12-5. Chiefs 14-2. As our guy Shane said, the Chiefs haven't been putting opposing teams away. One of the things, and we'll dive into it right away, that is concerning for me is that outside of the last game where they lost to the Los Angeles Chargers, they have been able to put teams away convincingly. They've won, I think, 7 of their last 8 games where they won within one scoring possession. That's something to where a team that is that was the top ranked team, the top scoring team coming into the season and coming into the playoffs is a little concerning. Now, Vegas had them, I think, to open up 10.5 point. I think it's down to 9.5 points right now over the Cleveland Browns in today's game.
Right.
How are you seeing it? I mean, do you think, and this is something that they've talked about this week, and they've talked about it publicly, not getting off to a slow start against the Browns?
Here's the thing about that. Everyone feels like, this team is getting off to a slow start. Patrick Mahomes isn't having his games, but we see it the question is, does the team, at least this was the question coming into today, does the team see it? Do they see the fact that that they're starting out slow? Well, they have acknowledged it. Not only that, but the players are even coming out saying, all right, it's time to get fired up. It's go time. And even when earlier this week, Chris Jones, I believe it was on Friday, he was asked a couple of questions. One, that being, are they bored during the regular season? But and his response was, if you bored, we go out there. That's when you go out there and get your ass kicked, right? So here's the thing about it too. Patrick Mahomes posted to his Instagram account earlier, just what you said. All of the media, the top media people, the Stephen A. Smiths, the other guys are saying, hey, they start off slow. You can't do that in the playoffs or you're going to get beat. Well, Patrick Mahomes made a video saying just that hey, it's at 2:00, it's go time. So that just lets you know that all these guys see it. Chris Jones said it when I asked him about it earlier, about the disrespect thing. He said, we all feel disrespected. Patrick feels disrespected. I feel disrespected. And Travis feels disrespected. The whole team does. So if these guys are coming out feeling disrespected, I think they're going, and I don't want to get my prediction too early, but I feel like they're going to come out with guns blazing.
Well, obviously that is the hope that they do come out guns blazing. One of the things that I'm curious to get your thoughts on is the fact that you mentioned earlier about Kareem Hunt. Mm-hmm. We've seen firsthand just how dangerous he as a running back he is. One, when he was a rookie, he led the league in rushing. 2018, before he was dismissed from the Chiefs, you and I, we were in Los Angeles, and in the fourth quarter, you and I, we were on the field in the end zone, and we just saw how electric that offense was with Kareem Hunt. What does his addition to Cleveland, knowing that most of the players, I take it back, I think only Chris Jones might have been the only player defensively, and maybe Okafor or Hitchens, who were on the team.
Sorensen was here.
Yeah, yep. Sorensen was here when he was on the team. But what do you think that they're going to be seeing defensively or offensively when Hunt is in the game, because they know what he can do?
And here's the thing about that. All of the talk about Kareem Hunt this week, I really don't feel like the Chiefs need to be worried about the running game. I really don't. I know I'm going to get some people that are going to mention me at me or whatever. But here's the reason why I say that. I already mentioned that the Chiefs are going to come out with guns blazing. Yeah. If they come out and score a touchdown, a field goal, get up by 2 scores possibly, I really feel like that's going to take away the running game for the Cleveland Browns. That being said, the Browns are going to have to, the Chiefs defense is going to have to worry about a red-hot Baker Mayfield, which I don't really think he has the firepower to get the ball down the field. His relationship right now with Juice Jarvis Landry, it's phenomenal, but they just don't have that firepower to get the ball down the field. And Kareem Hunt isn't, like I said, the running game isn't the worry for the Chiefs. I believe it's Baker Mayfield.
Speaking of Baker Mayfield, of course, these two quarterbacks played against each other 2 years ago when Baker was a rookie. Mm-hmm. Chiefs won that game in Cleveland. Kareem Hunt was on this team at the time. But of course, everybody's been talking about the shootout that they had when they were in college. I think Baker's team won 61 to, I think it was like 85 to 84 or something. It was just records broken galore. But he also had weapons there. Now, not to say that he doesn't have the weapons here in Cleveland, because he does, but they are a run-based team. They're a top 3 running team. Mm-hmm. For them to beat Kansas City, they're going to have to, hopefully for them, they'll need to win the coin toss, and if they elect to defer, that's at their own peril. But if I'm there,
the Browns or the Chiefs? The Browns. Okay, yeah.
The Browns. Yeah, if you let Patrick go first, now you put yourself at a disadvantage. But if they get the ball first, because we do know if the Chiefs win the coin toss, they will defer. Mm-hmm. But if the Browns expecting them to get the ball on offense first, of course they're going to try to establish the running game. And the question is going to be whether or not the Chiefs defensively are going to be prepared for that, because remember now, most of the star players have been off for 3 weeks. This team just played last week, so they'll have everything in motion and their gears already going. But if you're Baker Mayfield, to me, the key for them to beat Kansas City is, one, obviously you can't stay down, but 2, you got to be able to control the clock, and you got to be able to limit Patrick's possession, which is easier said than done because he can come in and score quickly. But the Chiefs have also had problems trying to score when they need to, and need turnovers to come into play. But if you're Baker Mayfield starting off the game, you got to get Chubb, you got to get Hunt, and you got to put them in spacing to where they can get out and stretch the Chiefs defensively. Then you can do a little play action with Baker Mayfield. If it comes down to where you're having a shootout between Baker and Patrick Mahomes, the Browns are going to lose that 10 out of 10 times. So they have to. For me, in my opinion, they're going to have to utilize that run game and limit the Chiefs' opportunity to even see the field, to where, look, even if it takes a 14, 15 play drive and all you come away is 3 points, but if you're getting 9-10 minutes off that clock, that's going to help.
And when you look at last week's game, and here's what the Chiefs have to do, to me, and that's being limit the turnovers. I mean, the Browns, they were successful off of all the turnovers that they got, and I don't feel like if Pittsburgh they don't beat themselves, I don't feel like the Browns win that game last week. I really don't. You think they had 5 turnovers, the Browns were able to score off of 4 of those. You just don't see that in playoff football. Something just wasn't right, and of course, the Steelers have been trending downward. I mean, they were the paper champions all season, right? So, I mean, when you look at just looking at last week, if the Chiefs don't have any turnovers, I think it's going to be a long day for Cleveland.
One of the players that will not be playing in today's game, it was announced a little while ago, was rookie running back Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Now, we didn't really expect him to play. I don't think he's going to play at all in the postseason, even if the Chiefs make it to the Super Bowl. How big of a loss is that going to be for Kansas City?
Well, it takes their 1-2 punch away, as Eric Bieniemy, Chiefs offensive coordinator, calls them, thunder and lightning. It takes that away, and I think that running game is just as good as the Cleveland running backs with Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt. It's just a little here or there, whatever you call it. But here's the thing about it. Le'Veon Bell is going to have to come out and be Le'Veon Bell. You like to say it all the time. He was a 2-time All-Pro. He's going to have to show his All-Pro talent today. And Andy Reid.
But one of the things we talked about, because you mentioned that the last time Pittsburgh came to Kansas City, and you talked about how well Le'Veon played in that game. So
right.
You're hoping and you're expecting that Le'Veon Bell to show up.
He has to. I mean, if they don't get anything out of the running game, and you look at what Buffalo did yesterday. They really didn't run the ball like that, but it ended up being like a boring game to me. It was. To me, it was really boring, and the Chiefs just have to be able to run the ball. I mean, they understand. Cleveland's defense understands that they're going to play zone. They're not going to let you beat them over the top. We know that. Teams have been successful, or they tried to be successful with doing that. You don't want the vertical routes. You want to make Patrick play everything underneath. And it's a good thing about it is that they've seen it earlier in the season, and Patrick has been successful at taking what the defense is giving them. But with that being said, they're going to need to have a little bit of that mix-up with Le'Veon.
Now, Nick Chubb is a Pro Bowl running back. Obviously, again, we talked about the two-headed monster, but we'll see a lot more of Chubb running the football than we will Kareem Hunt. What does he bring to that Cleveland offense that Kansas City needs to be concerned about? Because remember, the Chiefs have had problems and been struggling stopping the run this season. So, when you have two different backs, whether or not they're in at the same time, because, you can line up Kareem outside as a receiver, just like Le'Veon, where he can catch the ball where he's dangerous as well. Because I believe, if not last week's game, I think the week before against Pittsburgh, he caught he caught a couple of touchdown passes from Baker Mayfield. So, what does Nick Chubb bring to this offense that Kansas City should be really concerned about? Well,
Nick Chubb. He scored in I believe seven straight weeks. Right, scored a touchdown 7 straight weeks, and I really feel like Cleveland's going to lean on that screen game a whole lot. And not only that, but they're going to try to do what the Chiefs aren't expecting them to do, which that should go without being said. But they're really going to try to keep them on their heels. And that screen game is going to be tough. And Anthony Hitchens said it earlier this week. He said, in order for us to be able to make sure that we're stout within our defense, we're going to have to make sure that we play the run and react to the screen. And that's what I think that they're going to try to do.
One thing that we have not mentioned, of course, is Andy Reid, Chiefs head coach. He is 7-0 against the Cleveland Browns. Also coming off a bye. I know you know what his record is.
Of course, of course.
I think he's only lost 3 games now. Generally, I think he was pretty much almost unblemished at that time. The amount of preparation that we know that he had since maybe last Sunday, and I don't know how much he may have been trying to prep for other teams before it got to Cleveland, because he didn't know he was playing Cleveland until after the game. What are you expecting from Andy Reid, the type of play calling that he's going to do in today's game?
You know, it's a good thing that Andy Reid has some quality coaches around him, because the way I see that what they did was they had 4 possible teams that they had to prepare for, Browns being one of them. And Patrick was even asked about how did he prepare for all of the teams, and he said that he had, a notebook for every team that they could possibly face, and he took a day and watched film on all those teams. So, I think this week was just kind of filling in the little bit of the void that they had of not knowing exactly who they were going to play. But once they figured out that it was the Browns, you know what the Browns are going to do. They're going to try to pound the ball. I mean, you really don't have to work on, so to speak, the vertical game and the passing game from Baker, even though it's a little bit there. But I really do feel like Andy is that mastermind, and he's been doing this a long time. And like you said, he's very capable of getting W's after a bye week, which I believe he's like 15 and 3, I think, or some crazy number like that.
19 and 3 or something.
It's some crazy number, but if Andy has time to prepare, he's definitely a lethal weapon.
Okay, so I'm curious now. I was hanging out. I was driving some Cleveland Brown fans around last night, and it's funny. A lot of them are confident, but they're like, "What do you think the score is going to be?" And I tell them my prediction. They're like, "Oh my gosh, you got us at least better,
right,
than what Vegas has got us doing." So, they of course have not been in the playoffs for about 17 years. They won.
I don't want to laugh at that, but here's the thing: the Chiefs were there, right? Yeah. And so now we can kind of sit back and be like, "All right, yep."
So, where I was going with that is look, they won last week. They got a little momentum. What is the difference, in your opinion, for a team that has won? Like last year, Kansas City, the last 2 years, they were kind of like hunting Pittsburgh. I'm sorry, hunting New England, trying to get over the hump and then, get into the mountain. How different is it for a team like the Chiefs to now be the hunted when you got a hungry little lion over here that mind you now, haven't been in the playoffs for about 17 years. They won their game last week convincingly. Granted, they held them off, but they won it convincingly. But now they got a little extra confidence to where now not only are they smelling themselves, but other people are actually giving them a chance to come in and pull the upset.
Now, here's the thing about this Kansas City team. We've seen teams go back to the Super Bowl before back to back, not win it back to back, but we've seen them recently go back to back. Now, here's the thing about it. Those teams that have went back to back, they've either lost a lot of guys or guys just started, like, oh, well, I got my money. I got my money. I've done what I wanted to do in this game. So now I'm going to kind of taper off a little bit. Well, this team hasn't done that. They're still young. They're hungry for wins. Like, I haven't seen a team come off of a championship like this other than with Golden State. I mean, the Bulls, teams like that are just like, hey, we're young. We just don't know any better, right? And I think it has a little bit to do with it. But you have a guy and a leader in the defense, Tyrann Mathieu. They're going to go as he goes. You have a couple of leaders on this offense with Travis Kelce and Patrick Mahomes, and they're going to go as they go. So I think as long as they bring their A game, they're not going to taper off at all. And that's why they're here today. And here's the thing about it, too, is you hear all these guys look at, all right, well, we hear what what other people are saying about us. We hear we need to step on folks next. Well, we've seen Patrick at his worst, and his worst is still better than a lot of these quarterbacks in the league, their best. So if that is said, then Patrick, he's going to come out today, man, on fire, and I really believe that. And I think that he's understood, all right, we're not going to have to come out slow because they don't want to be in the same situation that they were with Tennessee, with Houston. And that's I think, the difference between teams today.
I do also believe that having the fans, I read something over the weekend where I think like the New Orleans Saints, and we'll get to that game in just a little bit. They're going to have about 3,500 fans there. The Bills yesterday had 6,700. The Green Bay Packers, they also had about 6,700 fans, but the Chiefs are going to have 16,000. How big of a home field advantage is that going to be? And look, and we literally saw and heard, granted, because as even though the game was boring last night, the Bills Mafia fans were still, they were still there. Aaron Rodgers talked about, the crowd noise against the Los Angeles Rams. How big of a factor will Chiefs Kingdom be in today's game?
I think it's a huge factor because people, they understand. And the sun is out. It's going to be about 43 degrees today. I think Chiefs Kingdom are going to show up. They were in the parking lot. I could smell the barbecue from here, from the tailgate. But no, in all seriousness, I think Chiefs Kingdom is going to show up, man. It's not. I don't want to say a long time coming, but they see this team and they understand that it's real. It's not just, we're starting from ground zero, hoping to get some wins, kind of like playing with house money, like Cleveland is coming in here doing. Now, you told me you had some Cleveland Browns fans that they're showing up today. So, but I think it's still going to be a lot more Chiefs fans.
But my question for you is this: because the Chiefs know, and they've talked about getting out to a fast start. Do you think that they may come out too tense, trying to make sure that they get out, to a fast start, quick start, pushing themselves, and maybe playing a little bit outside of their normal game plan that they do to try to get, to get things going right away?
I don't think so. I think, last year, maybe. But we've seen it with Patrick. With Patrick all season. Like I said, he's taking what the defense is giving him. He's going to not try to do too much. And that's the thing about a team that's not, like I said, playing with house money. You're going out there knowing exactly what you need to do to get a win. They've been here before. They know what it takes to get to the Super Bowl. Now, you hear guys like Travis Kelce talk about, I heard him say something like what kind of music he listens to that affects your mood. And he said he listens to, some old school stuff that kind of mellow him out going into the game because he knows how hype he can get on the field. So I think a lot of guys are going to do that and not get too hyped up before actually playing the game.
Glad you mentioned Travis Kelce because that's where I was going. Travis Kelce, Tyreek Hill, they set out week number 17. Of course, Tyreek was going to be sitting out anyway due to his hamstring injury. We talked to them this week. He says he's 100%. He said he worked out what I got Luther Glover and said that he can't wait for the game. What kind of impact? What do you expect from both Tyreek and Travis in today's game?
Continue to be the usual suspects, man. That's what they're going to do. You know that the ball is going to go to Tyreek. He's going to get his. You know that Travis Kelce is going to get his as well. And the Cleveland Browns have had trouble stopping tight ends. I think they allow tight ends to average like 60-some yards throughout the season and over 22 touchdowns.
Are you saying that if I put money on Travis Kelce today to get at least 2 touchdowns, I should be successful?
I think he will. If that's the bet that he will get 2 touchdowns, make the bet because the Cleveland Browns are look. He creates that matchup problem. Our producer Jazz had talked about it on our W show last week, I believe. He just creates that if a wide receiver, if a linebacker tries to guard him. He's too fast. If you bring a cornerback down, he's too big. So you just have that matchup issue, and he's able to go and use his basketball skills to go and kind of post up and create a big target for Patrick Mahomes.
Tyreek Hill, obviously, I believe it's Derek Ward, came off of COVID-19 for the Cleveland Browns. Who matches up against him? Are they going to try to man up with him? Are they going to try to have a single high safety behind him, or what? How does Cleveland defend against this Chiefs offense, especially with Sammy Watkins not in today's game?
You're going to see a lot of cover 6. You're going to see a lot of deep zone, making sure you don't get beat over the top. Give them the under. Give them the under routes. Make them beat you with the run. However, that's why I said Le'Veon Bell has to show up today, because if they're going to give you the run, they're playing to pass all those defensive backs on the field. You have to be successful with running the ball. Run the ball, and then everything else will open up. Then you get a play action. But Tyreek is still going to get his. We've seen him go into Patrick going into double coverage. Sometimes Patrick gets that I don't care mentality and he's going to throw it, which is the reason why people wanted to get Alex Smith out of here, because he wouldn't throw into that kind of coverage. But Patrick will. If Tyreek says, get me the ball, he will get him the ball. But here's the thing about it. There's no Sammy Watkins. So who else is going to show up?
I was just about to follow up and ask that with his subtraction. I'm not sure if McCole or Demarcus Robinson is going to step in his place, but obviously, if there's going to be a lot of focus on both Travis and Tyreek, somebody else has to step up in that place in the role of Sammy Watkins. Which receivers are going to be today?
I think it's going to be a little bit of both of Demarcus Robinson and Sammy Watkins. I mean, Demarcus Robinson and McCole Hardman. I say Demarcus Robinson because he's playing for a contract. He knows he has a 1-year deal this year, and if he's able to be successful, he understands he's going to go and get paid. We saw him this season. He had a game-winning touchdown against the Atlanta Falcons. So he's coming in with some confidence. McCole, he hasn't been a McCole of last year, but hey, he did well in the playoffs, and I think this time last year he was balling. So I think McCole will be awesome as well.
Do we see a scenario where By and Pregame will get a lot more snaps in today's game?
I believe so. Why not? You're missing Sammy. Sammy is, of course, we've seen the production that Sammy Watkins can do, but not as of late. Some people were calling him playoff Sammy just because of what he did last year. Well, Sammy's not playing today, so I feel like you have to throw in that fifth or sixth receiver out there. That way, you want to keep your guys fresh too. And I think the thing about it too, and what I'm predicting, I'm not giving my score yet, but I think the Chiefs will get up and they'll be able to throw some other guys out there.
I am curious though when you look at that because I know you talked about DeMarcus playing for a contract. Obviously, to me, I'm also thinking the same way about McCole. Next year we'll be going to his third year, but again, he should be making that ascension to as a wide receiver that we have not seen. And look, to his credit, he's graded himself I think maybe a C+ this year as it relates to his growth spurts. So that's something that I am interested in seeing. But I will say this: one of the things that I know that we haven't seen, we haven't really seen Le'Veon line up much. I know we've seen line up much as a wide receiver, but I would also like to see a combination to where he's out there lined up as a receiver if they're going to have Darrell Williams in the backfield as well. Just because you can. I just think that there's so much more even creatively that the Chiefs have not even explored by having those two backs out there. Instead of just switching them in and switching them out to where you can't really get too much of a rhythm. That and look, even if you have to use Le'Veon as a decoy, but the fact that that he is a 1,000-yard receiver as a running back. To me, I think if you're the Chiefs, you're Andy Reid, you're Eric Bieniemy, you at least give that look and give that impression that we might hit you with something that you haven't seen before.
Here's that thing that people aren't picking up on, and I've said this. I think on Twitter like 2 weeks ago when Darrell Williams, he's been fantastic. If you look at his production, every time that they put Darrell Williams in the game, he's been balling. I mean, even when they threw Darwin in there I think it was against, even though it was the Chargers, but hey, he wasn't. These guys understand that they weren't going to be here if Clyde was playing, and even if Damian was here, they would still be playing with the third and fourth string. So now Darrell is playing with what I like to call that house money because hey, he's playing for a deal too. He understands that maybe next year if Damian is back, he won't be back.
And one thing we talk about Le'Veon, this is going to be his fifth career postseason game. In the 4 before, he averages 128 yards from scrimmage. That's both running and receiving the ball, and he has 4 touchdowns, 3 on the ground, 1 in the air. So again, his versatility is going to be key, plus his experience. And he also rested in Week 17 as well. So any little nicks or whatever that he had going on, he should be completely healthy in today's game. Look, to me, with the additional 3 weeks. He should know more about the playbook, and this is what you're here for. So now is your time because you couldn't do it in Pittsburgh. You couldn't do it with Ben Roethlisberger. You couldn't do it with Antonio Brown. You got a chance now. This is what you said you came to Kansas City for. You have a 3-week opportunity, or I guess 4 if you include the bye, but you have a chance now, 3 games to cement at least your own place in history to where you can get yourself a Super Bowl and perhaps get it against Antonio Brown, but we'll talk about that soon.
And like I said, he's playing for a deal as well. But we've seen, and you talked about it earlier this year. He hasn't had any like negative plays. Everything's been, north. So when I'm just my guess is Andy Reid has drawn up some stuff for Le'Veon. And here's the thing about it: you get into the red zone. Eric Bieniemy had said it earlier this year. It's like we've got to run the ball when folks know that we're going to run the ball. So you're not going to see
be able to run the ball successfully, knowing.
Yeah, of course, and the Chiefs are, I think, last in the National Football League inside of the red zone. They have to be able to go out there and score. You're not going to see Patrick Mahomes going out there trying to catch an alley-oop pass or a Randy Moss type pass. You're not going to see Travis Kelce lining up in the Wildcat trying to play quarterback. You're just not going to see that. This is playoff ball. You've got to run the ball, and even when they get up, they're going to have to rely on the run game. So those are some of the things that they've had to work on. Not only, and I know we're going to talk about defense a little bit later, but they've got to work on red zone both offensively and defensively.
Before we go to break, because I do want to get your quick thoughts on last night's game, and of course the potential that. If the Chiefs, because we're not just going to speak it into existence, but the Chiefs win today, they'll be hosting the Buffalo Bills next week. But what were your initial thoughts on the NFC, AFC divisional games from yesterday?
Aaron.
Yeah, start with that.
Aaron Rodgers is Aaron Rodgers. He played, better than I thought he would. I thought he was going to come out there and not play as well as he did, right? But he did. He came out there and balled, and he showed why he's going to be the MVP of this season.
Thanks a lot, Andrew Reed, on that one. What I will say, coming out that game, great win for the Packers and for the fan base being able to see it at home. What I do like, and I'm kind of looking 2-3 weeks ahead, is the fact that at the end of the day in Tampa, let's say Kansas City makes it. But the NFL to finally have a matchup or the potential to have a matchup of a Patrick Mahomes versus Aaron Rodgers or Patrick Mahomes versus Tom Brady or Patrick Mahomes versus Drew Brees. Mm-hmm. That's something that that they've been wanting, at least when Tom Brady was in the AFC, to have because Brady's never matched up against either one of his quarterbacks in the Super Bowl, and
right.
so for the NFL to be that close to where you could have, your main guy, Patrick Mahomes, against any one of those three, to where the storylines write themselves off. Obviously, you got the State Farm commercials. You got Drew Brees and his swan song. You got Tom Brady, the GOAT versus. There's so many ways that you can go with that storyline. I'm pretty sure that the NFL is so grateful that Tom Brady moved from the AFC to the NFC and how things are working out as it relates with the 7 games and like that. Buffalo, your thoughts on that game?
Man, boring game, but I think Buffalo they showed a little bit of weakness yesterday. I think with their running game isn't as strong. You saw the same Buffalo team that we saw in when the Chiefs played them.
But maybe, I'm sorry to cut you off, but maybe they saw what Baltimore did the week before against Derrick Henry, because they talked about it in the broadcast, like, man, they saw what they did. It's like, we don't want to put that out there. So, but
Stephon Diggs is a great addition. Great. That was the best move, I think, for a team right now. He's the best addition, minus possibly Tom Brady to Tampa. He's the best addition to a team. I mean, he came in and they went from a non-playoff team to a playoff team. That's just it. But that chemistry that they have, it's. Man, but let's just say they match up with the Chiefs. I think the Chiefs will still knock them off. They just don't have that it factor. There's not many teams that do. New Orleans, Tampa Bay, those are the 2 teams I feel like, in Green Bay. Those are the 2 teams that can go out there and I feel like can score with anybody.
And obviously last time these 2 teams played, Buffalo and Kansas City went to Buffalo Monday afternoon game. Patrick only threw for 200 yards but had 3 touchdowns, and they ran the ball. It was a boring game as well. So hopefully we're not in for a repeat of that come next week. Let's take a quick time out. When we come back, we'll look on the defensive side of the ball. I do want to let you know, of course, it is 12:34. You do still have time, obviously, to get you some Gates Barbecue. This is their 75th year anniversary, and right now they have a lunch special, $8.95, 11 to 2 with bun sandwiches. Or if you like me, I know I still owe Steve some wings.
You do still owe me some wings. Wow, I forgot about that.
But see, I'm not like
Stomach is growling
so
too.
you go to Main Street, go to the Main Street. You can get you a 24 wing tray for $64.95. Make sure you stop there. Let them know we sent you. They'll get you taken care of. But look, when we're going to take a quick time out, and I do mean a quick time out. When we come back, we'll look at the other side of the ball. We'll talk about Chris Jones, Frank Clark, and then also we'll look at the second game this afternoon. This is the Steve Walls versus Darren Smith game this afternoon.
Joseph, I see you. What happened to Lamar? He was trash. He was trash.
He was trash. But that also goes to coaching as well. So we'll also talk about the Tampa Bay New Orleans Saints game when we come back after this timeout.
Play on one song too long because it will be cut off.
Like you said before, I'm going to go to Divisional Playoff Game. Patrick Mahomes, Texas Tech.
Yeah, he's been doing that. He wore Travis's Cincinnati jersey. He wore Tyreek's.
See, when we come back, I want you to kind of do what I was doing so I can get some going on and so you come back talking against me. Wherever you are.
This is the Chief Cheat Sheet back here inside of Benton's, right? It's located inside of the Westin Crown Center. Remember, the Westin is your place to stay. It's your go-to spot to stay in the Kansas City area, right here downtown Kansas City. We're about 5 minutes away from Arrowhead Stadium, where the divisional game is going to be happening here, coming up in about 30, 45 minutes. Darren,
we got about an hour and a half.
Do we have about an hour and a half?
2:05 kickoff, man.
I'm early. I'm way early.
You ready to get this game started? I'm not mad at you on that one.
I am, and a lot of Chiefs fans are ready to get this game started, man. I want to look at the defense for a second. For the Chiefs defense to come out here being successful, we've talked about it, before, that Steve Spagnuolo's defense is that defense that gets better over time. Last year, they started off, learning a new scheme under Steve Spagnuolo, and they got better going into the playoffs. We've said that they need to be a middle of the road defense in order for this team to be good. Well, are they that middle of the road defense right now?
Yes, actually, yes. Surprisingly, I will say this: they can't afford to be down 24-0 to this team or any team going to, as they progress into the playoffs. Hopefully. They've played better. I think injuries have played a part, obviously, throughout the season.
Mm-hmm.
What I'm curious about is, because we haven't heard his name called too often, is Frank Clark.
Mm-hmm.
Look, in the big games, for me, this is what you, Chris Jones, Tyrann Mathieu, this is why the Chiefs are paying you all the big bucks. Now, granted, yes, you won the Super Bowl last year, but again, that's last year. Last year. You're still getting paid them big bucks this year.
Mm-hmm.
This is the time to show up. I know Chris Jones was a little dissatisfied not being a player in Week 17 because he wanted to try to hit his bonus. My comeback to that is got to be playing consistently, be playing well all season. You don't have to worry about Week 17 coming down to that. But did you get your 2.5 sacks in today's game? Because this is going to be a challenge for Steve Spagnuolo's defense, because Baker Mayfield's offensive line is one of the best in the business. And shockingly, he hasn't had that many sacks this season, which is, or he hasn't been sacked as many times as you would expect someone of his ilk to have gone down. And that is because, one, they have a great run game to where they can run the ball and alleviate Baker Mayfield trying to pass the ball all the time.
Right.
But then, so if I'm Steve Spagnuolo, what kind of pressure are you going to try to put out there to get to Baker Mayfield? Will Baker Mayfield see a lot of blitzes coming from this team? Will Tyron do a lot of cheating? But then to me, at the end of the day, you got to win the line of scrimmage. You got to win the battle at the line of scrimmage. So I need to see in today's game what Chris Jones, what Frank Clark, what Alice look for, what they are going to be able to do at the line of scrimmage, and whether or not they can win that battle.
Now, when you look at, we talk a lot about Frank Clark, we talk a lot about Chris Jones, and that is one of the reasons that why when I asked Frank or Chris the question about the disrespect of Cleveland coming in disrespecting, and he said I feel disrespected Travis and the rest of the team, so forth. So is there a little bit of concern there? When I mean concern, I mean Steve Spagnuolo has said that sacks don't equate to this defense being good. Is there a concern there that they're not getting after the quarterback enough?
It's concerning for me because to say that sacks aren't, it's not. I don't know if he said it's not that important, or he may have said that. But if you get a sack, that means you're putting the offense further and further back from the line of scrimmage. And so instead of 2nd and 10 because he had the incomplete pass, it's 2nd and 19.
Right.
So that to me, I can't rock with them on that because that's football. And you should be trying to get after the quarterback, and pressure is one thing. And if you can pressure him into a turnover or a bad play, okay, that's fine. But but the idea, if you're a defensive lineman or a linebacker, that's how you kind of make your bread and butter, right? There is getting after the quarterback. Look, Aaron Donald, yesterday, he was hurt, but he's out there on the field. People say if you're out there on the field, they expect you to play well. He only had one pressure on Aaron Rodgers. So if you see somebody of that ilk and he's out there and you're not hearing their name being called,
right?
That's the problem. So you can say that you don't have to get sacks, but if you can't even get pressure to the quarterback to where he's feeling he's kind of running for his life, that's a problem.
Now, the Chiefs defense have allowed a touchdown on 77% of the opponent's trips inside of the red zone. We talked about that a little bit, which is they rank last in the NFL with inside of the red zone. Right. Do you feel like that was a focal point within this 3 weeks off for Steve Spagnuolo?
One can only hope so. We don't exactly know what they've worked on, which of course is something that we'll see later on today in just a little bit. But if I'm Steve Spagnuolo, again, you want to be able to kind of stop the run, but because that's what they're going to run the ball. But you also want to, but just when you think they're going to run the ball, they might hit you with a play action with Baker Mayfield. I just don't want to get beat by Baker's legs, and which is I'm not too concerned about it, but I do respect it enough to where if he doesn't see it, if he doesn't have anybody open, he might take off. Now the good thing about Baker is Baker's got like Kyler Murray, he's about 3'7". So if you can,
right.
So if you can get the pressure to him to where or have the pocket collapse on him, you might have you might have a chance where if he has a problem getting over his offensive line, he might be able to throw the ball right in the Tyron's trunk.
But here's the thing about Baker, though. Sometimes, and we've seen these young quarterbacks, and I want the people who are watching us, checking us out, we appreciate it. Remember, this is the Chiefs cheat sheet with Steve Walls and Darren Smith. We're right here inside of Benton, located in the Westin Crown Center. Darren, when we look at Baker Mayfield coming into today's game, he's another young QB, right? Yeah. I think they put up the NFL put up a little graphic yesterday during the playoffs where it showed the kids' tables and the 24-year-old, which I felt was really funny because it's like you go sit at the kids' table. But we've seen the young guys like Josh Allen. We've seen guys, heck, one of the Joe talked about it a little bit ago when Lamar Jackson. Yes, we've seen all these young QBs try to compete and try to get in the shootout contest with Patrick Mahomes. Will that be an issue today for Baker Mayfield? Because I feel like it will. I feel like Baker is going to. We've seen the whole Texas Tech Oklahoma type deal. So.
Well, we talked about that actually throughout the season to where quarterback like John Gruden and Derek Carr. You just got that. You have a quarterback, or you have a coach who's matching up against Patrick, and of course Patrick's getting all the spotlight, and deservedly so. Mm-hmm. But if Patrick's going to fling it, obviously, as a competitor in the back of your mind, you're going to want to go out there and show what you can do. Now, if I'm the Chiefs, I do put Baker in that situation because that's where you can make mistakes. Now, the one bad thing about that, the one bad thing about that is, is the simple fact that he doesn't have Odell Beckham where he can kind of force stuff. So
Right, right.
if he was able to force Baker, Baker Mayfield to make those type of throws, I think Chiefs have a greater chance of that. But if you are Baker Mayfield, one of the things that you want to make sure is that you don't get caught up in that. And look, and depending on what the score is, if they're down by 2, Baker's going to try to force some things because he's going to feel like it's up to him to make things happen, to turn things around in their favor, to help them get back into the ballgame. So if you're Kansas City, if you can get up a couple scores early on and then you unleash the hounds, might be able to do just what you said.
Yeah, and here's the thing about Baker too. It's all a mental thing. It's like you said, if you're a competitor, if you're a true competitor, then what are you gonna do? You're gonna come out there and try to keep up. You're gonna come out there and try. All right, well, you're throwing for 2 touchdowns. I need to go out there and throw for 2 touchdowns, or I'm not that QB, right? And Baker Mayfield is, like I said, he's playing. He was on his way out the door. I really do believe that.
Yeah.
I mean, the Browns have tried so much. I mean, they brought in Odell Beckham Jr., they brought in Jarvis Landry, Kareem Hunt. So you got all these pieces, but you're still not playing up to par. And Baker had that switch come on when he felt like he got Odell Beckham Jr. hurt. I still believe that.
No, I think you're right.
He turned the switch, and that was probably the best thing that happened for him.
Here's the thing, though, because you're 100% right about the Odell Beckham thing, but also he finally accepted what Kevin Stefanski was trying to preach. We have a top 3 running team. Allow them to do that to ease the pressure on you trying to force things out there. If you allow Kareem Hunt, Nick Chubb to do their thing, teams are going to be so focused on it. The next thing you know, boom, you can hit something to Jarvis Landry, or you can hit something to your tight end.
I agree.
Or you can run out there, pitch it throw something to Kareem Hunt if he's lined up, because you don't want to put so much pressure on yourself where they're so focused on you and you're so focused on them that you forget about the rest of your teammates and forget that this is a team game. So no, I'm with you on that. Look, to his credit, because I'm not a huge Baker fan, he has played extremely well and has bought into Kevin Stefanski, because to Baker's credit, he's had 4 of the head coaches before Stefanski came around. And so the fact that Stefanski came in, realized, looking at from 30,000 feet, okay, this is what I got. I got 2 outstanding running backs. I got Odell. I got Jarvis. Odell goes down. I still got these players. Got a tight end. Got a good offensive line. Man, let's just play basic fundamental football.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Put your hand down in the grass. Let's go after it. Baker, all you have to do is don't make mistakes. Now, to Patrick's credit, Patrick has said that, if they have to run the ball 50 times, he's willing to do it if that means that they're going to win. Because we just mentioned it earlier. He only threw for 200 yards and 3 touchdowns against the Buffalo Bills, but that game was a game where they were running the football a lot, but they still came out victorious.
And I want to switch gears for a second. I want to look at the Chiefs' offensive line before we get to the Browns' defense. What are you seeing from this offensive line? Because I mean, we know what happened through the season. They've been injured. They got the injury bug. A couple of guys opted out. Now it's kind of like they're plug and play type deal. Where do you see this offensive line, and how do you feel like they need to be successful? What do they need to do to be successful today?
I am going to hope that, and I can't remember if Eric Fisher played in Week 17 or not, but I am going to hope that they utilize the downtime to rest up. I mean, rest up. Whether just laying on the couch or something, but just rest up. So because you're going to be in for a dogfight, and just to jump right into it, because we haven't talked about him at all, but Myles Garrett, even though he didn't have really the debut he was hoping to have last week against Pittsburgh, he's still that dude. I think he's top 3 in sacks for the in the NFL. So if the Chiefs aren't careful, that line isn't careful, one, they better protect Patrick because he is going to make a name. He's going to try to make a name for himself, especially since he didn't have such a big game last week. How do you make a statement in today's game? Get to Patrick Mahomes. And so it's going to be very vital for the Chiefs' offensive line to keep Patrick protected, especially his blind side when Myles Garrett is out there on the field.
And I think that's one of the reasons that they're going to have Le'Veon is he's good in pass protection too. Yeah. He really is, and I feel like they're going to use him a lot in pass pro. I mean, why wouldn't you? You know, he's a guy that has helped protect Ben Roethlisberger for so many years, and I mean that even though their offensive line in Pittsburgh at that time was crazy good, right? But here's the thing about it, and I feel like this is the reason why the running game wasn't as good as it should have been earlier in the season. I mean, Mitchell Schwartz was healthy, Eric Fisher was healthy, so those bookends were good. Then you had the middle of the line, which is the middle of the line right now is the weak point, and I think that's where you're going to see Myles Garrett try to work. It's the same, and I know the Chiefs haven't played the Rams, but the same way Aaron Donald works is right there in that middle of that line and tries to get pressure up the middle.
I will say, if I'm Kansas City, if you had that kind of concern on your front line, then we should be seeing Patrick out of shotgun a lot versus underneath.
And we will.
I'm saying that's going to be key. That's going to be very important because that gives them a couple extra seconds at least to scope out, see if they're blitzing, and you don't have to worry about Myles Garrett just shooting right through the gaps. If you're underneath the center versus dropping back. See, we only got about 10 minutes left. I do want before we pick the winners, do want to get to the second game today.
Okay.
In the battle for
I bet you do want to get to that second game, don't you? Yeah.
But let's keep the credibility on the line. I want your thoughts on the second game because this is what the history game or the History Channel game between Tom Brady and Drew Brees. Obviously, the Saints. It generally is hard to beat a team three times in the same year. But the Saints, they got the better of Tom Brady and the Bucs opening week of the season. I think they got the better of them. I think week 8, week 9 when they had Antonio Brown his debut. The Bucs, I think they've won their last 5 games or 5 of the last 6 games. Your thoughts on this matchup? Which is going to be the winner goes to Green Bay to face the Packers next week in the NFC Championship game. Here's
the thing, and I know the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are your team. I just don't think that it's this year, right? I just think that they came out. Of course, they threw Tom Brady. They didn't throw Tom Brady. They added Tom Brady into their offense. Now the offense is working without an offseason to try to build that chemistry. Then 5, 6 weeks. 8 weeks into the season, they bring in Antonio Brown. Now they tried to add him to the mix. Still, there's no chemistry there, and I feel like they really have chemistry issues on that team. They don't know whether they want Ronald Jones to get off. They don't know whether they want Antonio Brown to get off. I just don't feel like they understand that their pieces that they have, what they need to do to gel. Like kind of like what the Chiefs, Andy Reid knows what he has. They know where they're going to go. You still have Gronk there. Yeah, so. I really just don't feel like that this year is their year. I still believe that New Orleans, they have the much better team. Now, not talent-wise, I'm not saying that, but just as a team, they've been playing together for a little while. I mean, you have Michael Thomas that knows, Drew Brees knows exactly what he wants to do. You have Alvin Kamara, who is the team, right? Drew Brees knows exactly where these guys are going to be at the right time. Emmanuel Sanders, he's been there a couple years. So, You gotta understand. Well, he's been there 1 year, I believe. So you gotta understand that mix up of those guys there. He understands exactly what they need to do to win. And Drew Brees is, he's no slouch, right? People get on me all the time when I say that. And I talked about this yesterday, but when I say that Tom Brady is washed, I don't mean it in like a literal sense, like he's washed up. I just mean like he's not able to do some of the stuff that he was able to do when he was in New England, when he had that great offensive line, when he knew exactly where his guys were going to be when they were going to be there, because they weren't the best offensive players in the league, but they were like a plug and play. He knew all right, I'm gonna make you better. These guys he has down there, they're already legit. They're good. However, they're going to sometimes do their own thing, and that's why I don't feel like they're on the same page. So, with that being said, I still got Tampa Bay. I mean, not Tampa Bay, New Orleans winning the game.
What's your score?
Ooh, it's gonna be a shootout. I really believe that. I think it's gonna be a 41 to 41-37 type game.
All right. Well, my comeback to you on what you were saying is this: is that they played much better, and I think they scored 40 a couple of times since the addition of Antonio Brown. I know they put up 40, 45 points against the Minnesota Vikings. That's a pretty good defensive team. What I don't like, or what I don't see in the New Orleans Saints is that outside of Alvin Kamara, they really don't have anyone. So you can spy, you can focus on Kamara. Drew Brees has not been able to throw the deep ball successfully. Michael Thomas, I believe he was out last week, and so I think he's coming for today's game. So that quote unquote chemistry that you talked about, I'm not really seeing it there now. They were, look, obviously the key to getting Tom Brady is pressure. One of the things, the Washington football team, I think they were number 2 defensively. And Brady was pretty much successful against that team. So the offensive line for them, that's going to be key for you to beat Tampa Bay. Is that you have to be able to get pressure on Tom Brady. If Brady's not getting hit, if Cam Jordan or whatever, if they can't get to Tom Brady, Tom Brady, one of the things that he's been able to get the ball out quickly, and so it doesn't take him long. And one of the things, look, Ro Jones is not going to be playing in today's game, so Leonard Fournette is going to be the bell cow today.
He hasn't been playing that good to me.
That's debatable, but here's the thing. I mean, the fact that Brady, because he only needs 2.5 seconds to get the ball out, he can get the ball to Antonio Brown, Gronk, he can get it to Mike Evans, he can get it to Chris Godwin. So he has the weapons. As long as he is protected, if he's protected, if he's not hitting the ground, the turf down in New Orleans a lot today, I like Tampa Bay in this game. I do believe it's going to be a shootout. I do believe it's going to go down to the wire just because of it's division rivals. So to me, it is hard to beat a team 3 times in the season, especially a good team. And I think this time around, look, we'll talk about what happens next week, but I think Tampa Bay wins this game 35-32 over the New Orleans Saints. And then, look, one of us is going to have bragging rights tomorrow night on the Red Hour. So.
Yeah, I believe it's gonna be me, man. You look at how it's just one of those things. Sometimes the team just has your number throughout the season, and I really believe that New Orleans has Tampa Bay's number this season.
Before we get out of here, obviously, final thoughts on today's game. Who wins? Chiefs, Browns.
I got the Chiefs. I got them beating the Browns. Sheesh. I do. I think it's not gonna be fair. I got them beating 31. I got them winning 31-13. I think they're going to get up and get out and early, and it's going to be very surprising. We've seen teams feel like they can practice so much and prepare for a team, but you don't know exactly how fast this team is until you get out there on the field with them. And let's just say the Browns come out there and score, on that first possession. The Chiefs are going to come right back, and if they're the Chiefs that they've been going into the playoffs last year, and then earlier in the season, they can score within a matter of a minute or two, right? So that's kind of disheartening when you feel like, oh, we got their number, we came out, we scored first. Then when Patrick Mahomes comes out there and he throws 3 passes and score, then what are you going to do? It's like, man, this is going to be this kind of game. I have to bring my A game. So Baker's going to either be the zero or the hero, one of the two, and that's just what it's going to be. But as long as the offensive line stays solid and Patrick Mahomes is Patrick Mahomes, I feel like they're going to be successful today.
I've got Kansas City winning this game. Initially, I had it 31-24, but you kind of make me want to go back to my little bet site. So I'm talking about Patrick Mahomes. I think Patrick throws for 4 touchdowns today. My only concern is that even when the Chiefs get up, they let their guard down. They always let a team back in the game. And
right.
So I do have the game much closer than what you have. I know Vegas has the 9.5 points, but I've got Kansas City now. I'm gonna up it some. I got them winning 38-31.
And one more thing. As long as they eliminate the turnovers, if they don't end up like Pittsburgh last week, I feel like they're going to be fine. The Browns don't win that game if they don't convert on all those turnovers that they got.
Before we get out of here, Steve, who you got on today? Who you wearing, man?
Shout out to my people over at Dillard's. They dressed me today. I really appreciate it. Remember, Dillard's on a Rosa. If that's if you're looking for with something like I have on today, I have the vest with the pants, nice socks, and kind of subtle look today. So if you want to go and check them out, holler at my guy Jeff over at Dillard's in Santa Rosa.
Steve, I like you kind of calmed it down, brought it down some, brought the noise down some on the wardrobe. So
what you mean? Why?
I'm saying, I like that. I like that.
No, I appreciate it. Now, remember, my people, we're here at Crown Center. Halls is right down the road. Now they're here,
right downstairs.
Right down the road, right downstairs, still on the third floor. But they're doing some remodeling, getting ready for spring. They're going to have a new. They got a lot of new lines coming up inside of Halls with a new rebuild inside of their location.
Shout out to them, and of course, each and every week I'm styled by Mr. Todd White. Of course, you can go to Todd's tailored suits and custom suits over at War Parkway. I guess that's the only place in town now that you go and get suited and booted. So like the little black pinstripe, we were gonna go with the straight out gangster with the black shirt. We said no, we don't want to. We don't want to scare people like that. So, but shout out to them. Also, thank you for Crown Center and Business for allowing us to do the show from here again.
They're your place to stay. If you need a nice place to stay inside of Westin Crown Center, this is your go-to spot. If you're visiting, if you're watching us from out of town, I know we always have a lot of out of town viewers. But remember, when you're coming to Kansas City, if you're coming for the AFC Championship game next week, this is your go-to place to stay right here inside of the Westin Crown Center.
And of course, like I said, when I talked to some of the Cleveland folks last night, they were talking about the great barbecue here. Again, there's none better than Gates Barbecue. Remember, they're celebrating their 75th year anniversary, and right now they have their lunch specials for $8.95 between 11 and 2 daily. Their bun sandwiches, and you can also, football, get your wing special on Main Street, a 24 wing tray for $64.95. I'm headed over to the Gates over by the stadium. So, Colin, I'm on my way over there. But we want to thank our producer, very much Jasmine Palmer, for keeping us looking good and sounding good on the air. Steve, obviously we'll do this again, hopefully next week, Championship Sunday. And, of course, make sure that you join us tomorrow night for the Red Hour. Myself, Steve Walls, DJ Q, Sean Tyler. Then, of course, you can join me at 3 o'clock in the afternoon on ESPN Kansas City with Darren and Sterling. We'll talk more about this game and of course, try to set the scene for next week's championship games in the AFC and the NFC. So, for Darren Smith, Steve Walls, this is the Chief Cheat Sheet. We are out of here. Go Chiefs.